Hey, what's up? Rare non-vertical video here. Um, I still have my Christmas tree up. I'm being lazy. I just watched Lawrence of Arabia on my television, and for the first time, I had never watched it before. It was my first time watching the movie. I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, any kind of epic movie you go back and watch from this era, the scale is gonna be incredible. Very compelling story. I didn't realize it was based off like a real thing that happened, like Lawrence Arabia. I thought it was just like a story. I didn't realize. I just knew of the movie. I didn't know what it was about. But it's based off a real person, the real story, and I really liked it. Um, I This is the second of like the big like epic movies from this era that I've watched because I watched Gone with the Wind last year, a little bit longer ago, around this time. It's got to be a year and a half ago. It was in 2021. I watched Gone with the Wind. Wow, that's a long time ago. I haven't seen Ben Hur yet. There's a lot of like these like great epic films. I guess Patton's one of those. These like epic, classic epic movies are huge and crazy budget. Everyone thinks it's like the pinnacle of cinema, and you're immediately impressed going into any of them. I thought Gone with the Wind was a lot more interesting to me. The story was more fascinating. So I think like the performances in Gone with the Wind better. Peter O'Toole just comes off a bit. He's good, but he comes off a bit like sissy in this movie, which I guess is like what he's supposed to do. But I don't know. He looks the part and he's very good, but I'm not sure if I'm 100% sold on him personally. I mean, the thing is, it's hard to complain when a movie's this great, but I'm just talking like to like give you like the downsides of it. But I was very impressed. It's long, and it definitely feels its length. Um, a lot of these there's movies I'll watch that like the 4 hour, it was 4 hours long, basically 3 hours and 46 minutes or something, which is long. Um, and you're supposed to take a break during the intermission, but I didn't stop. I just watched the whole thing. Uh, but I just gotta say, obviously they don't make movies like this anymore, and they never will. This is an era when people had attention spans, and in general, I think one challenge I have for everyone this year, anyone who of my viewers who's still around, if you're watching a movie this year, pick and watch one really long movie, whether it's a classic or a newer one, like a really long movie, so longer than 3 hours. You're riding up to 4 hour length, right? Like an epic fucking length movie. Pick it, sit down and watch it the whole way through. And try not to do anything else, try not to go on your phone, try not to do anything else, and just do it. Because I did that. I just did it. I watched the whole movie. I looked on my phone a bit, but I didn't stop and take a break, do other things. I got some food, but that was it. Otherwise, I just sat and watched the movie. And if you can do that, and then like read a book or something, it'll help cure your ADHD. Because I think we're like self-inflicting ourselves ADHD nowadays. Because there's no reason, right, why you shouldn't be able to watch a movie for 4 hours. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to. It's like you're just sitting. It's not difficult. You're just enjoying something that's happening. You're just entertaining yourself for 4 hours. But for some reason, people like act like it's a big fucking chore to do this. And it's because we all have fucking ingrained ADHD because we're used to like watching 20-minute YouTube videos or even worse now like 90-second TikToks. So the scale and production's really interesting. I wonder if this movie's gonna get called racist because they've got people in like brown face, probably, but it's really good and like the story and messaging is very good. Like the conflicted nature of like Lawrence and like how he like descends into like he starts like he's like so like aghast that he could kill it all, and then by the end he's like a bloodbath mercenary. He's like slaughtering people, and the descent into that and like how like the twists and turns, like how he has to kill both like there's like the two like servant boys who are helping him, who like they're like, oh, we gotta serve Lawrence, yes, we'll be happy, and he like, oh yeah, of course, I'll take you along. He's all like happy go lucky, and then one of them dies and he has to kill the other one. And yeah, I mean and then the whole theming of like, are the Arab people are barbaric, or are they naturally barbaric? Is Lawrence becoming barbaric because he's being like with them? Is that foolish? What's going on? And it also really puts in context how just like different of a world the world was when this was made, because it's like the 1960s when this movie was made, and like the Arabic people are like, it's a totally different world now than it was then. Like 60 years later, and the Arabs are like on like one of the richest nations in the world, and like like in contender to like be like a top nation in the entire fucking world, right? And it's like, they're probably like they're in terms of like enemies of America that exist. It's like the Chinese and the Arabs would be the two like probably biggest one. People will say Russia, but people say China, Russia, but China, Russia, and the Arabs, Saudi Arabia, and like Iran, Iraq area, but great music and it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's a fucking gorgeous movie. Like, goddamn, worth a watch. That's my review of Lawrence of Arabia. Uh, I have nothing else to comment about right now. I don't have a wrestling review for Ralph Romania or whatever. Just want to say Lawrence of Arabia, good movie. I'd really recommend people go watch it, but you probably have heard of that already. So, you know, I don't know, man. It was good. Is it weird to think that it's good? I don't know. Am I allowed to like it or not? I don't know anymore. I don't know what I don't know what the discussion dichotomy around it is. I'm assuming it's okay to like it. It's an old thing and it's long, so people haven't actually watched it. So I assume it's good. That's the one thing people just assume. But the thing is, a lot of these epic movies, you're at least gonna enjoy the spectacle of it, right? The production, how big the amount of cast, the locations, the recreations of the battles, like that alone is enough to make the movie interesting. But the actual story itself is really interesting to think about, and like the journey like Lawrence goes on from like being like a officer in like a fucking room to leading a fucking whole military invasion, basically like a leads the people on a revolution to like overthrow the top Ottoman the Turks. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack with it. There's a lot to think about. So maybe it's probably it's one of those things that stick with me in your head. So the question is, is it? It's like people say it's like one of the greatest movies of all time. Is it the greatest movie of all time? Um, I'll say this: I think Gone with the Wind is definitely better. Personal opinion. I like both movies, but in terms of like movies that I can put up in the greatest movie of all time list, but like in terms of like not like personal preference, but like what was the greatest movie that has ever been made, like what was like the pinnacle achievement for film, right? Where it's like the greatest, not just like not like even the best, but like the greatest. Which I'm not sure if that makes sense. They're different. So two different things. The best is like the perfect film. The greatest is the one that like achieves the most with what it's like the one that has the greatest achievement. Um, and it's one of those. It's up in there in contention. Um, it's difficult because I've seen a lot of movies like this, like Patton and Zulu, these like military movies. But I mean, this is just such a story. Is so crazy. The story is so good, and the production's so great. But it doesn't. It says a lot, but I thought the message of song of not Song of the South of Lawrence. But by the way, if you're in Florida, last weekend to go on Splash Mountain is this weekend. But the message of Gone with the Wind and like the theming and like the idea of that movie, it's something that's something that I never thought about, like the erasure of Southern culture completely, and like the death of like a way of life, with the Civil War and how like it killed. I mean, like obviously with slavery, but like beyond like the people who didn't even own slaves, and like their lives went from like a, you know, like a dignified and classified and classy and like old European style life to being like miserable and slummy and awful, and it's just like the way the world has gone with the wind. And then I don't know, it's just that story is just so compelling, and I think about that movie still. So it's tough. It's between. I mean, it's like greatest movies of all time. It's a very short list. It's Lawrence of Arabia, Gone with the Wind, Godfather Part One or Two, maybe both. And if you combine Godfather one and two together, which you arguably could, that could be like in contention for like the greatest movie of all time. People like Apocalypse Now. I don't put Apocalypse Now on that same list. It's not the same. Um, maybe and Ben Hur. I haven't watched Ben Hur. I want to watch Ben Hur though. But those are like the movies that people go to when they think of the great epic movies. And of course, we all know the answer for what really is the greatest movie of all time. It's Avengers Endgame. Because anyone who's had sex just knows that's a great movie. Obviously, that's just excellent filmmaking. Obviously, maybe if you didn't like it, maybe you should try getting your dick in some pussy. Maybe you should try having sex once, man. Just a thought. Just a fucking thought there, man.